What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Cadaver review and ending explained. Now, lockdown has pushed me towards watching some very random foreign shows and movies. It's something I may not have watched pre-lockdown, and I've discovered some hidden gems such as Dark and Curon. And last night, as the rest of the UK goes increasingly through the Nando's level tier of lockdowns, what other way to spend an evening after a hard, long day of work in an apocalyptic wasteland of coronavirus land of England than watch an apocalyptic Norwegian cannibal thriller? Well, if you wanted a TLDR, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it wasn't an overly long movie at an hour and 25 minutes. And I mean, there's no need to make movies so long these days. It's nice just to have a nice, contained, tight story. The movie is a Norwegian movie directed by Jarand Herdal, and while light on the scares, it was a solid movie and very different to anything I've seen in a while. So as always, there will be spoilers in this video for the movie, and if you enjoyed the video, please do drop a like down below and subscribe with notifications on if you want more from us. Now, the movie opens showing a wasteland of a world which we learn from newspaper clippings that the world has been ravaged by a nuclear holocaust, and there are people simply trying to survive in the aftermath. It's a tough, horrible world as some survivors, Leonora, Jacob and their daughter Alice, try to find a place to stay, only to find people who have committed suicide. Eventually, a man comes to their town and promotes a dinner theatre night and gets people to go. Leonora buys her family tickets and explains it to Jacob, and he is very, very hesitant, but she is eager for Alice to grow up in, well, some semblance of life before the nuclear war hit, and she's a bit biased because she was an actress before the nuclear holocaust. Now, they as a family go to the hotel at the top of a hill, which is not at all ominous whatsoever, and soon find something that is so out of place in the harsh reality of Fallout 5 Norway. The hotel is pristine, and they sit down to eat dinner and have their meal, and they gobble it right down, having only earlier that day eaten from a cat. After a dinner is eaten and they've eaten it all up like a dog on hot chips, which is so very gross now we know what happened at the end, but Matthias, our master of ceremonies, comes out and explains the show is about to begin. They're given golden masks and everything is part of the show. It's a very immersive dinner show experience. Presumably, this is to help stop people about to be murdered from resisting there, as they know what happens. It is an absolute show. Actors are amongst the audience at the tables, and they start to break away, and they're free to follow whatever actor and storyline they're interested in the most. Leo's daughter Alice, she chooses to follow Raquel as they pursue her and see all manner of craziness with a woman absolutely getting drilled, not literally, and people being taken away and other horrible mutilation. Eventually, as they try to find Raquel, they realise that the guests have started to thin out heavily as they head towards a dilapidated part of the hotel, as Leo sees a painting with an eye that moves and what looks like a button, and they find someone they were actually sitting with. They find an audience member who asks where their masks are and says the actors were amongst the audience, hinting that foul play is afoot, and the guy runs off. Eventually, they find a guy who says he can't do anymore, a guy they saw earlier as he cuts his throat. Raquel arrives again and tells him to stop acting, and they're going off to the ballroom. We know that these are all in on the cannibal cult, and that Leo and Jacob were able to go around so freely after shit hit the fan is because they don't have their masks and they were thought to be actors, although it's a bit unclear as we had the final act. They find one of the men who was at their table, and they find a blood pack and loads of clothes, but the blood pack is fake as Leo also sees the dress. They see the dress because, well, they can't find their daughter. That's one of the subplots here, and really the main driver of underpinning the show, because they can't find their daughter and they're so worried. They find her dress, and, well, she becomes convinced that a man walked into a painting, and they head there towards the ballroom, as Raquel said. and they see actors being told that they need to stick together. Now, there are hints that the daughter is still alive because the blood on the dress and the blood packs are all fake. Eventually, they make it down into the tunnels as the man who cut his throat arrives once more, and they see furnaces, but Jacob is taken by the actor and the man from their table who at least Jacob knew outside, runs off. I mean, did they not wonder why the guy didn't have a mask, as we now know he is actually an actor? They knew him from the real world, but we know that people from the town can become actors, so it's a bit of a weird one there, and the masks are there so they don't actually try and save people they know because they don't know who the people are. Leo is now on her own as we see Raquel pretend to be the wife of the hotel manager, and he threatens to send her back into the apocalypse unless he complies with him and plays her part. She then went on to find the audience who are being chopped up and turned into food after being killed. It's all a big ruse and a cannibal conspiracy. The actors prepare for the next show as Leo is captured and is about to be turned into meat by Lars until Jacob, her husband, arrives, and it turns out that he has then gone onto the side of the actors because he just wants to survive, and he convinces her, or at least tries to convince her, to turn to the cannibal side, but she is adamant of finding her daughter. While the movie is predictable at times, the ever-presence of true horror of cannibalism provides a constant unease. She manages to escape, killing her captor and Jacob in the process as she tries to find her daughter. She manages to sneak into the next showing wearing an audience mask, but we see the guests rounded up and killed using the trap doors. There were clues throughout, like I said, that her child could be alive as the blood on her dress was fake. The man who pretended to cut his throat returns to try and get her as he recognises her, but she makes a 900 IQ play and puts her mask on him, and he is led away by the executioners. She's great at pretending as she was a seasoned actress before the collapse. She goes on to confront Matthias, the hotel manager, except everyone thinks that this is actually an act, as they would have been told that everything's planned, but her being smart leads the guests as they think it's a bit of a show, and she leads them to the underground tunnels of butchery. The guests run to leave, and Matthias is stabbed by Raquel after he has treated her badly and made her pretend to be his wife who perished. Leo thinks she hallucinates as she sees Alice, but it turns out it was a ruse all this time that her daughter was dead, and that is the real Alice there. Matthias' daughter perished in a hotel fire, and he subsequently bought the hotel because he couldn't live without it. He couldn't let Alice go as she looked so much like his own daughter. She comes to her senses and leads Alice out back into the town at the start of the film. She may have escaped, but the cannibals, well, yeah, it looks like they may have had a bit of an easier life, albeit killing people, as she sees dead bodies out in the town, and it looks like they're going to have a real tough time surviving. Now, that was an interesting story. I really, really liked the movie. It was a real kind of original take on cannibals and things like that. It had great kind of looming dread throughout, and I fully recommend you guys watching it, although you've probably watched it already if you're watching an ending explained video. And I'd love to know what you guys think down below of the movie, and if you want maybe a sequel or something like that. Probably not, but let me know. Please do drop a like down below, please do subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.